cerebellum adjusts motor output, ensuring coordination and balance. So the cerebellum is going to make up 11% of our brain mass, and it's dorsal to the pons and the medulla. The pons is here, the midbrain is over here, and then the medulla is as we get further down here. Midbrain, pons, and medulla, this is the cerebellum posterior to it. Looking at some of the anatomical features of it, this white matter that forms this tree-like structure, this is what's known as the arbor vitae, or the tree of life. And then you can see all of the gray matter that's surrounding the tree of life there. So the cerebellum, it processes input from the cortex, brainstem, and sensory receptors, and it's going to provide precise, coordinated movements of skeletal muscle. And it's also going to play a major role in balance. Looking at some of the anatomy, the cerebellar hemispheres, they are connected by a worm-like vermis. This is the vermis. You can also see the vermis down here as well. The folia, these are the transversely oriented gyri, and the folia, that is what's shown right there. They each have 3 lobes, anterior, posterior, and flocculonodular, anterior, posterior. It contains a thin cortex of gray matter with a distinctive tree-like pattern of white matter. We identified that, the arbor vitae. The Purkinje fibers, where do they originate? They originate in the cortex, and they synapse with the central nuclei at the cerebellum. We looked at the Purkinje fibers at the very beginning when we first started talking about chapter 11. You can see these are the Purkinje cells over here of the cerebellum. The cerebellar homunculi shows the sensory map of the entire body, and that is what's shown right over here. The homunculi. So we can compare that with what we saw with the primary motor cortex and the primary somatosensory cortex. If you refer back to it, you'll look at that drawing, and then it looks something like that, where you had the head over here, and then this was showing the cerebral cortex. All of that gray matter on the outside. So it was like the head was over here, and then the leg and the foot was more medial. Looking at these cerebellar peduncles, all of the fibers in the cerebellum, they are ipsilateral from and to the same side of the body. This is in opposition to when we were talking about the primary motor cortex and the primary somatosensory, where it's contralateral. 3 pairs of fiber tracts, the superior, middle, and inferior cerebellar peduncles. So the superior one connects the cerebellum to the midbrain. The middle cerebellar peduncles connect the pons to the cerebellum, and the inferior cerebellar peduncles connect the medulla to the cerebellum. If we take a look at all of these different peduncles there, the superior, middle, and inferior peduncles connecting their respective structures. Cerebellar processing, it fine-tunes the motor activity as follows. It receives impulses from the cerebral cortex to initiate voluntary muscle contraction. It also receives signals from the proprioceptors. So these proprioceptors, they are going to detect stretch in the muscles and the tendons and send this signal to the cerebellum. So these pathways continuously inform the cerebellum of the body's position and momentum. To define proprioception, it's the position of our limbs in space. So the cerebellar cortex calculates the best way to smoothly coordinate muscle contraction. And also it's going to send the blueprint of our coordinated movements to the cerebral motor cortex as well as the brainstem nuclei. Some of the cognitive functions of the cerebellum: it plays a role in thinking, language, and emotion. However, when we talk about the cerebellum, what we are primarily concerned with, we're referring to our motor output, coordination, and balance. The functional brain systems span multiple brain structures. What we're going to discuss first is the limbic system. We've already discussed how the limbic system has a primary role in processing emotion. It is a large part of the emotional or the affective brain. Some of the structures you should be familiar with include the amygdala, the cingulate gyrus, the fornix. Let's identify some of those. So if I zoom in over here, we've got the cingulate gyrus, amygdala, or the amygdaloid body. Other structures to be familiar with include the hippocampus, parahippocampal gyrus, the fornix, including the hypothalamus. So what does the amygdala do? It helps to recognize angry or fearful facial expressions, elicits the fear response, assesses danger. So we can group all three of these here together. It also has a role in memory, including another structure that has a big role in memory is the hippocampus. The cingulate gyrus. So the cingulate gyrus is this structure right over here. The cingulate gyrus plays a role in pain processing. It plays a role in expressing emotions via gestures and resolves mental conflicts. We also have the fornix, which is going to that links the limbic system regions together. Responding to environmental stimuli, most output is going to be relayed via the hypothalamus. So the hypothalamus plays a role in the psychosomatic illnesses. These are disorders with physical symptoms that originate from emotional causes. So, for example, I had a relative, they were dealing with emotional issues. It showed in the body, they started having GI tract issues. So, for instance, acid reflux. The limbic system also interacts with the prefrontal lobes. We talked about how the prefrontal cortex is responsible for thinking or cognitive roles here. The limbic system interacting with the prefrontal lobes or the prefrontal cortex allows us to react emotionally to the current environment. The reticular formation, this extends through the central core of the brainstem. To identify the reticular formation, it's seen right in here, right within the brainstem. And if we take a look at this diagram, what we can see is some of that sensory information that's traveling here to the brainstem. So that sensory information, you've got some synapses here at the brainstem, and then you also have the thalamus here functioning as that relay center in order to transmit some of that sensory information here to the cortex. So what these connections, they allow it to govern brain arousal. So all of that stimuli functioning for arousal here of the cortex. So you've got three broad columns that run the length of the brainstem, include the RAF nuclei, the medial group of nuclei, and then the lateral group of nuclei. So it has far-flung axonal connections with the spinal cord, cerebellum, hypothalamus, the thalamus, as well as the cerebral cortex. Looking at the reticular activating system, it sends impulses to the cerebral cortex to keep it conscious and alert. So we're going to filter out 99% of all that stimuli. It's not going to be relayed to the consciousness. Things that can inhibit the RAS system, it's inhibited by the sleep centers, alcohol, including drugs. Severe injury can result in permanent coma or unconsciousness. Motor function of the reticular formation helps control coarse limb movements via the reticulospinal tracts. When we say coarse limb movements, what we're referring to is unrefined muscle movement. So, for instance, posture. That would be an example of unrefined muscle movement. When we talk about fine motor control, we're referring to, for instance, movement in the hands. It's very, very intricate in the movements. The reticular autonomic centers, they're going to regulate visceral motor functions. So those efferent signals that are being transmitted to the organs. And this is going to be found here within the medulla. Some of these autonomic centers include the vasomotor centers, the cardiac centers, as well as the respiratory centers.